Greetings and salutations, everybody, and welcome back to episode 115 of the Snarp Fangle podcast. I'm your host, Jake Metzger, and my co-host this week. You all know him. He's the host of the Theo Bros podcast, a theological conversational podcast, and the co-host of yours truly, Snarp Fangle podcast. He's a fan of Jesus, and oh man, he's a real fan of Jesus. He's also our favorite, somewhat adjacent to Christian nationalist individual, and a fan of Cookie Crisps breakfast cereal. Ladies and gentlemen, David Reed.
I never had Cookie Crisp.
Oh, you didn't?
Yeah, I never had them.
Well, they're terrible for you, so I'm glad.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I've had, I think, one like half bowl at like a hotel one time. Like when they have all that continental breakfast, they got all that cereal out.
oh yeah.
I tried, what was it? I think I tried Captain Crunch, hated it. I tried the Flintstone one, hated it. Actually, that was okay. But then like, I tried that and I'm like, man, this is too good to be true. So I'm going to stop eating it. This was a good experiment though.
Yeah, Cookie Crisp was one of those cereals that I didn't have growing up. And then after I grew up, I just was not into sugary cereal. So I never tried it. I mean, there's like one exception to that and that's Lucky Charms. Lucky Charms and Tricks, for whatever reason, like sometimes I just get a craving for those.
Ooh, dude, you and Chelsea.
But other than that, I don't like sugary cereals. So
Interesting. No, what about Frosted Flakes?
don't like them.
Really?
I like Corn Flakes.
Okay.
Like
that's right. You and your brothers grew up with like Raisin Bran Crunch.
Plain Corn Flakes. I actually prefer that to even to Raisin Bran.
Oh. Well, you know what? I see the appeal of Corn Flakes. You can add whatever you want. It's kind of like you can kind of transform it into anything you'd like.
Yeah.
Fruit, sugar, whatever.
I mean, yeah, I don't really like to make it like super sweet even. I'll eat them plain.
Wow.
But if I do church them up a little bit, my preferred method is to slice a banana.
Oh.
And put the banana slices on top.
God, you are really, truly, just like your heart tells me, David, an old man. Banana in your cereal. Yes, my old man, he still does that. He still cuts up a couple slices of, I don't know what cereal he eats though. Oh, I think it might be Cheerios if he's going for a bowl or so. He might do Cheerios and bananas.
I mean, Cheerios and bananas is kind of a classic combo. I mean, Cheerios are okay. They're not my favorite. I much prefer Corn Flakes. Like, does that make me like really weird that I actually dig Corn Flakes? Like,
no,
a lot?
I think. I mean, I know you're a contrarian by nature, but this is different. You know what I mean? Like, this is different. Not contrarian David. This is just David with good taste or some kind of taste.
I think Corn Flakes might be one of my favorite cereals overall. Like, and yeah, generally I'll just eat them plain.
Dang. No milk.
Well, yeah, I put milk in
yeah,
there.
you'll put milk in them.
But yeah, like I said, if I do add something to it, it's usually banana slices. And
how thick are these slices?
You know, they're about probably.
We talking like like a fingernail width or like half a fingernail width?
We're talking like.
That's a pretty thick banana slice for a full fingernail.
Maybe like 3/4 of a fingernail.
That's a good size. Yeah. I like that. Yeah. Not the tip of the fingernail, but like
not
3/4 up. That's a good solid slice of a banana.
Yeah, not too thick, not too thin.
Yeah. Just how I like just how I like them. Thicker the better, as I say. Especially when it comes to banana. Oh no, you can take a lot of wrong things from that quote. Oh man.
Oh my God. That reminds me of the insult that I hear bandied about very often now is to insinuate that somebody prefers to eat bananas for the shape.
Oh God.
Yes.
All genders have made that joke, unfortunately. I was always impartial myself in terms of cereal was Frosted Flakes. I grew up eating that.
Frosted Flakes, huh?
Yeah, man.
See, I can't.
That was some good shit
I can't.
right there.
I can't gel
Excuse me,
with
my language.
I can't gel with the Frosted Flakes myself.
Well, you're not supposed to put gel on them, David. That's the key.
I've been eating them wrong this whole time.
I thought I was supposed to put the Barbasol in the bowl of milk. Oh man, but yeah, Frosted Flakes, and then we would have Cheerios. But dude, growing up, Honey Nut Cheerios, that stuff was the business.
Yeah, Honey Nut Cheerios are
Honey
all
Nut
right.
Cheerios was. I think if you're gonna pick like a sugary cereal and like Cheerios, that's a happy middle. Not like chocolate Cheerios. Who wants that? But like Honey Nut Cheerios.
Nah,
There's some good stuff.
they were okay.
I think the recipe changed though at some point because as a kid they were awesome, and then as an adult I'm like, this is okay.
I don't know. I wasn't too hot on them even as a kid.
Mm.
But then again, I'm weird. Like my favorite cereal is like cornflakes. And then if I eat sugary cereal at all, it's because I have a specific craving for like two specific cereals that comes like once in a blue moon.
Mm.
So like maybe I'm weird.
There's something funny about that because I'll get a real big hankering for like a bowl of Frosted Flakes, and then I'll buy like a half gallon of milk or a quart of milk. I'll get some Frosted Flakes, have a bowl of them when I get home from work, and then I have 1.5 bowls, and then I'm done. And then I don't touch the box for another like 7 months until I have to throw it out. Like that's usually how it goes for me in cereal. And you don't even want to know what the milk looks like after 7 months. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, usually what happens is I'll buy a box of cereal and just totally wolf it down in like 2 days. And then I'll be like, okay, that's enough cereal for me.
Yeah. Now your brother, Matthew, who we've had on the pod, he has turned me on to Raisin Bran Crunch. Have you ever been have you ever had that?
Yes.
Okay.
I've had it
Are you
plenty of
Are you
times.
somewhat of a fan? Like just Raisin Bran or Raisin Bran Crunch? Where are we going?
I mean, I like the basic Raisin Bran.
Basic raisin.
Although, I was raised on the Malto meal stuff.
Oh yeah. Okay.
The bag cereals, not the box cereals.
Yeah, the bags. Yeah, the knockoff, but it's pretty dang close.
But and actually, I think the Malto meal Raisin Bran is actually a little better than
Dude,
the legit stuff.
Dude, you legit like the Frosted Flakes that Malto brand has. That's some good stuff right there. I don't know what black magic they got going on in that Frosted Flakes, but they could be dangerous, man. There's some good stuff in there.
Raisin Bran Crunch for me was always like
Fruity Pebbles, that was the name of it.
I never really had it all. I've tried it, but I never really had it all that much just because I was so partial for to the Malto meal, satisfying my my Raisin Bran cravings.
Did Malto meal ever, because we're talking about the same thing, right? Where it's the bags of cereal, not like a box of cereal. The bags, big, like family pack size.
Yes.
But they're the knockoff brand.
Yeah.
Okay, have you ever had, not the fruity, what's it called? Captain Crunch of that. Have you ever had the Captain Crunch Malto meals?
I'm sure I have. Yes, I have. I have.
Okay, because I think Chelsea at one time, I think she was like a teen or something, and I was a little kid. She bought a bag of it at like, my mom went to like the store. Chelsea went with her and she bought a bag. And I remember she brought it home and man, she was dedicated. She ate through that whole bag with not all at once, obviously, but in like a span of like about a month. Like she was pretty consistent on it. And then I think after that, she never had Captain Crunch again. It was either Captain Crunch or Trix. I can't remember. But there was one time we had a big bag because we would buy like the Frosted Flakes of those in especially the Cheerios version. We buy a lot of Cheerios of that brand.
Yeah, I've never seen Malto meal Trix. I'm sure it exists, but I've never seen it personally. But I have had the Malto meal Captain Crunch. And I mean, it basically just tastes like Captain Crunch, which is to say that it's whatever.
I wonder if they ever like bought the like what would be General Mills that owns all the cereals basically in America. I wonder if they own Malto because they own everything, basically. They own shampoos.
Now, you want to know what cereal was like the shit?
What was
Is
that,
the
David?
the berry kicks.
Berry Kicks. I'm going to look this up real quick.
You know what Kicks is, right?
I would have to look at the mascot.
They didn't have a mascot.
Cereal.
At least not that I saw.
Oh, KIX.
Yeah, Kicks.
Oh, I think I
The
remember
little round
this.
balls.
Oh, I always remember seeing these advertised. Yeah, General Mills, man.
Yeah, they had a berry,
Yeah,
they had a
berry
berry
Kicks.
flavor. Yeah.
Oh, this looks.
And that was some good ass shit right there.
I mean, hey, it says right here, kid tested and mother approved. You don't usually get those two at the same time. Well, let's see. Berry-shaped puffed corn pieces alongside the classic Kix Puffs. I remember Kix Puffs, I think. Ew, they had a marshmallow one? Ew. Oh, no, that's just a commercial that's got faded color. I saw the picture and I'm like, ooh. You can get them on Amazon, David. Are we ordering a Kix Berry cereal right now? They got a Bluey's Kix, David. Whoa,
Bluey's
Kix. Dude, they have Mott's Very Berry cereal.
Never even heard of that.
From what it looks like, they have Kix whole grains just on Amazon, and then they have the Mott's Very Berry cereal, which is basically the same thing. So it looks like they rebranded Kix Berry Kix into Mott's. And then the Bluey kind of looks like moldy cereal. I'm not gonna lie, it's just colored like Bluey. Weird, David. Great. Now I'm like, oh man, they crucified Toucan Sam. Have you seen this new design of him?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God. Mother Mary and Joseph, David. Here, let me get you a good, nice look at this monstrosity.
Oh God.
Oh God, indeed. Like that is an abomination. That's Beelzebub right there, David. Jesus.
That's the Prince of Demons.
That's the Prince of Demons. Okay, so wait. I'm sorry to go on another sad tangent yet. We still need to get through this intro. But Beelzebub is the son of the devil?
Beelzebub is basically a name for like.
It's another word for Satan.
Well,
or a demon, right? Because I
yeah.
remember Pilgrim's Progress. You got Apollyon, the devil's son, right?
Well, I mean, Pilgrim's Progress takes a lot of liberties.
That's true.
Like the Bible has a lot of names for a lot of different spiritual entities, and most often they're all kind of like symbolic of evil in general. If not just outright alternate names for Satan.
Mm-hmm.
There's no clearly defined demonology in the Bible where Satan has like his son or his right-hand man or anything like that. Just, yeah. And Beelzebub, if I remember correctly, is basically another term for Satan. I think it has Jewish origin.
While you look at that, I was kind of nosing around the Left Behind films on Wikipedia here. And I'm thinking, David, you know that one series we wanted to start on the podcast that I won't name, but you know that where we have, a collection, we'll say. What if we did the Left Behind movies? Episode 2.
Oh, God.
There's 3 original, but then there's like 3 other sequels after that. Let's not do that. But what did you, Beelzebub? What did the AI satanic Google Gemini come up with? He's reading, ladies and gentlemen. He's reading. Beelzebub.
Okay, I see.
You found it.
So it seems like Beelzebub actually has its origins in the name of a god worshipped by the Philistines.
Oh yeah, okay, I do remember this a little bit.
And then in
because like Babylonians almost.
in they're not
Or they're not
Babylonians.
Babylonians.
They were Philistines.
Tomato, tomato. They're worshiping other gods.
But yeah, it's basically like this sort of the idea of this Philistine deity morphed in Judaism into the idea of he was like a high-ranking demon because Judaism over the years has had its own, like out there
mystic sides of it.
Yeah. So I think in the culture of the first century, Beelzebub was understood in Judaism as like this high-ranking demon. So when you see it in the New Testament, where the Pharisees accused Jesus of casting out demons by Beelzebub, they're basically working within that cultural framework to try to spread the idea that he was casting out demons via the power of hell.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I remember. It's not in the New King James, or is it, where they say the word Beelzebub?
Yeah, I mean,
I want to say...
I'm pretty sure it's in every translation.
Yeah, because I remember in growing up, listening to healing scriptures by the good old Kenneth E. Hagin. Was it E. Hagin? I don't remember. But anyway, I remember him quoting that verse, and it was, he's casted out devils by the prince of the devils. I think that's what it says in King James.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah,
they casted out devils by the prince of the devils.
Yeah, that's the wording that they use. But yeah, Beelzebub was considered like basically a demon prince.
Okay.
At the time. But I'm pretty sure they actually say the name too. Yeah. Here we go. This is New American Standard Bible 2020 revision.
Whoa,
so
your
this
favorite.
is this is an updated modern translation. And Mark 3:22, the scribes who came down from Jerusalem were saying he is possessed by Beelzebul, but I mean that's just another way of rendering Beelzebub, and he casts out the demons by the ruler of the demons.
Interesting.
And then this goes into the parable of the strong man and talking about the blasphemy of the Holy Spirit and all that.
It reminds me of like that show American Gods, where like, you're over here in America and the gods gotta conform to like the culture and the civilization, the rise of the Western powers. It reminds me though, what if, David, the deities, the Philistines and the Aztecs and all those other cultures worshipped? And what if they are still right in front of our faces today, David? What if they're just plastered on boxes of cereal, for example? What if these Cookie Crisp Wolf and the Captain Crunch and this monstrosity here? What if Toucan Sam is actually a representation of an Aztec Mayan deity?
You sound like someone who is familiar with the work of Jonathan Cahn.
Yes, David. Yes. I have no idea who you're talking about.
He's I believe he's Christian. I can't. He's he's ethnically Jewish, but I believe he's Christian.
Jonathan Cahn.
Cahn, I believe.
Chahn.
Okay. He wrote a book called Return of the Gods.
Oh, yeah.
Which basically kind of espoused the same idea that you were hinting at right there.
Oh, yeah, Cahn.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And it was actually Thaddeus, your brother, who
he's
recommended that book to me.
Yeah, he's on YouTube as well. Jonathan Cahn, The Altar of Pergamon. Interesting. Yeah, okay, yeah. I think I remember hearing about this guy, and I think, yeah, he recommended we look him, or one podcast he said look him up. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
Mr. Khan.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It didn't have, I don't think it had anything to do with the podcast for me. I
Mm,
don't know. Maybe he said that to you, but he just recommended the book that he wrote to me. It was one time during a burger night.
mm.
He's like, yeah, he started talking about Return of the Gods and, um,
Dude, 2 burger night mentions on a podcast? That's crazy.
yeah, so I went and I still haven't finished it, but I got it as an audiobook and listened to a good chunk of it, and it's a fascinating read.
Interesting. For comments and concerns, and what your favorite obscure pastoral commentator and favorite cereal is, send them on over to snarpfanglepod@gmail.com, or you can leave a comment below, or you can just text Jake.
Is that our longest intro ever?
That was about 20 minutes. Yeah, give or take. That was pretty cool. That was pretty long. Well, it's to weed out the people that are going to stay for the I mean, this is probably going to be the next 2 weeks, David, are probably going to be some of the most controversial, dare I say, like we haven't done some already like this, but our most controversial episodes. I'm just going to put it out there in the next 2 weeks. This one and then Theo Bros next week. God willing, if it happens. Lord willing. Okay. Quiet moment for Theo Bros. But yeah, so today, well, it all started, David. Let's just get out of the way what the topic is. The topic, David, is stories to make you white pilled. Now, let me go ahead and read what that means, because that's internet slang for all those that are remotely intrigued
Yeah,
and
for
are
all
still
those
hanging on.
normies out there.
Yeah, for all the normies out there who are listening to this, if you're a normie. I don't think you are a normie if you listen to this. All right, so white pilled is internet slang, meaning this: having adopted the belief that there is hope for one's personal future or for changing society for the better. This is from dictionary.com, by the way. In comparison, there's also the term black pilled. Black pilled is this: having let's oh man, I almost read the second one, which is about incels, but we're not going there. Number one, it says here, having been persuaded by the belief that there is no hope for resolving a major problem or changing society for the better. So I'm really curious to hear what you have in your examples, David, but I'm going to kick us off. Start us off, roll us along. I'm going to get us rolling with the first example, which is how I came to think about doing this episode. And that was this video from a lady, or formerly a lady, called Sophia Narowitz. And the video was called The End of Sophia. And this is a kind of journalist, gaming journalist / writer that I've met, not met personally, but I've followed throughout the years. And she's done writing for like sacred symbols and stuff like that, Colin Moriarty's kind of stuff. In terms of cultural stuff. And if you follow her on Twitter, she's on Twitter way too much. And she actually did a bunch of coverage for the 2020 riots, I think in her local city, wherever that may be. But I think it was like Cincinnati or something. But anyway, so she's got some like journalistic experience, and the video was basically saying, hey, I'm no longer Sophia because I'm detransitioning. This is a transgender person, man to woman, and now she's going back to being a man. So I'm going to read a little bit of what it's about, and then we can get into it. In the video, someone formerly named as Sophia Narowitz details how she has gotten to a point in her life where, for the betterment of herself, that she's decided to detransition. Watching the video, for me personally, was like the sobering experience. It felt like while watching it, and I'll link it down below if in the description if you guys want to take a look at it or listen to it. It's mostly just an audio. And it felt like a cry for help when you kind of listen to it, and it was kind of like him regaling all the experiences he's been through. And he was a veteran, and he has past trauma that was in his childhood and in the military and beyond that. And he suffers from chronic pain as well. And these health issues kind of as they were detailing them, as Narowitz, whoever this is, was detailing this, they're saying that these health issues kind of stacked up to the point in their life where at one point they had to like sell their car to pay for all the medical stuff, and not just for like the transgender stuff, but just medicine for the chronic pain that they were in. Um, and he also describes this like existential dread that kind of flowed through their content, as well as dread and the depression and trauma and dealing with gender dysmorphia in general. And I thought that was, and it came to a certain point basically, and it came to this point where they made this video, and basically how they've made the conscious choice to detransition. And one of the coolest things about it, is that this person, Sophia, I've always known them as transgender or whatever, but to see him or her or whoever come out, and Sophia was a big like a big opponent of the trans ideology and what they were like pushing onto people. And I think there's a video on Sophia's YouTube where it's like transgender like cannot stop getting in their own way. And the thumbnail is like a gun, but it's rounded the other way back to the shooter. So it's like they comment on like the school shootings, the other shootings from transgender people, and just people struggling with gender dysmorphia and that kind of thing, and how the community is just so toxic and bad, and just doesn't really do any help of promoting themselves in a good light at all. They kind of just push everybody away and push an ideology that just continually shoves down other people's throat and kind of makes other ideologies look bad, even stuff like feminism and the such. And this is an ongoing conversation for more than a decade at this point, and even further than that. But it's interesting, this video, and she's also commented on like the perspective she brought was quite poignant during the time I was following her, like in a landscape full of like woke stuff and in the gaming industry and whatnot. And also before all the people now in that kind of space, not all I should say, but most people in that space now are kind of taking advantage of the anti-woke movement and just making money off of it. And I thought it was really interesting to see and hear her perspective. And one of the best things I love that she mentions in this video is that she pushed past, in her words, more autistic tendencies and actually got involved in community. Like she went to a local like community center, I believe. She volunteered her time. And over time, as she did that, she got to meet more people. She then became part of a book club. She felt like she had a place of belonging. And I thought that was really interesting. And that kind of sense of belonging and kind of getting out of the house and getting out of your comfort zone. Because I get it. I've worked with people and have helped people with technology stuff who are transgender. And this is where I mostly meet a lot of these people at my work. And it's always a struggle with identity. It always is. That's what the heart of that issue is. And gender dysmorphia is an actual condition. And to see it throughout the years become this kind of thing put on the back burner is really disingenuous and not solving any issue that people who have this diagnosis struggle with. And it's not leading them into a healthier place. It's leading them into a more unhealthy place. But thus is the American health industry. And the last thing I'll kind of say on this is I love how they end the video. Let's see, did they write it down? I didn't write it down, but she said, "This is not a change of my personality. I'm still going to sound this way. I'm going to try to reverse, the surgeries that I've had and that kind of thing." And she has like a girlfriend that's like helping her and everything. That's like her partner. And she's going through the motions right now. And it was such a raw kind of telling of what really what people truly go through who are dealing with gender dysmorphia, and kind of made me look at it into a different way. And I love what she ends it with. She ends it with, this isn't a, I still have my snark, my personality, blah, blah, blah. But then she says, this is just a change in the vessel that carries this, which I thought was awesome because that's what it is. We are vessels for for Christ, for the Holy Spirit. And I loved that terminology. And she's just trying to use other words to describe it. She's a writer. But I thought it was very poignant. And to cap it off with something like, this is just a change in the direction of this vessel was very interesting to hear and just made me think about it a lot, being like, that's really what it breaks down to. Like, we are vessels and we are whatever we put into ourselves, whatever we consume mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, that kind of thing. And I just thought it was really interesting and kind of a look at kind of a more hopeful view of the future. And they even say, or him, her, whatever, I don't know what to call Norwitz, Sophia, she kind of says like, hey, like I know in those people who are dealing with this, I don't take anything away from you. As well as I believe she said something to the extent of, I know what you're going through, and part of this is figuring out how to be comfortable in my own skin. And I thought it was just so interesting because I've worked with a person, I won't say their name, but they were once a man and now, they're trying to look like a gal. And I just see this kind of confusion in their eyes. And I just, my heart goes out to that person because I see him and I'm like, I'm a believer. I could maybe God will have me have a conversation with them one day, but I'll do it in his own terms, like God's terms. And it just made me it was a very sobering video to kind of listen to and experience. And, she talks about how the way she found an escape was going for a drive. And she hasn't done that for years. And she finally did recently. And doing that drive has made her like that choice of detransitioning. I just thought it was really beautiful in a way and very sobering. So I don't know if you took a look at the video, David, but what do you think of all this?
Well, first off, I didn't want to interrupt you because you were on a roll there. I think the word you're
Did I say
thinking
morphia?
of is dysphoria.
Dysphoria. I knew I knew it. I wrote it, morphia, and then I corrected it when I was writing this. And I corrected to dysphoria. So I keep saying dysmorphia, so my bad.
Yeah, dysmorphia is a word, but it's associated with the term body dysmorphia.
Yeah,
which has to do with like discomfort involving the actual physical characteristics of your body, whereas gender dysphoria is discomfort with your actual gender identity.
Okay, thank you.
Like it's discomfort with being a biological male or a biological female.
Thank you, David, because I was because I spelled it morphia too, and then autocorrected dysphoria. So I was like, oh man, I got to remember to say that right. So this whole time I thought I was getting it right. I am imperfect and I make mistakes, and that's who I am. David, thank you.
But aside from that, yeah, I'm really glad to see that more and more people are waking up to
whoa. Use the woke up term.
are waking up to the truth that this whole ideology that transgender identity is built on is just fake.
Yeah.
It's all made up.
It's based on emotions, and emotions are so ever fleeting.
And it's so funny how pervasive it got to the point where people will actually try to make arguments that somehow the science is settled, that, transgender identity is real and you have to respect it. And when, anyone with a functioning brain looking at the evidence can see that's not the case. But it's very extremely encouraging to see that it hasn't gone away, but it seems like the spell has been broken to a certain extent. People are no longer captured by that ideology to the degree that they once were, which is nice.
I like how you use the term spell because we'll be talking about something later that I have here involving that. But yeah, back to vessels and identity. I think that really is, I mean, that's truly what it breaks down to. And everybody struggles with their own identity, whether it be if you're in the wrong body or not. That's even a separate thing in itself, but just your identity in general. Like we've talked about this on the pod, like people don't know who they are. Sometimes I don't know who I am. Sometimes I think I've gotten to the point where in my life where I'm like, okay, I know who I am. I've gotten through a lot of crap and different things in my life where I know where my hope lies. And I think that's really the key is figuring out where your hope will lie. And the noise in the world does such a good job of distracting you first off, but also embedding itself into how you look at not only yourself, but everybody around you. So I think it breaks down a lot to perspective. Um, there's a video that came over my feed not too long ago about God doesn't want you to look at your reality. And it was kind of like this, kind of like, okay, you're a Christian, you're 2 steps into it, but I think you're talking about something that you need to be a little bit more steps into it to kind of like describe it. But I get what they were saying. It's really about perspective and God saying, hey, like your mind is transformed. It truly is once you allow the Holy Spirit in. And it's your job to keep it that way. Because you can go, it's so easy to look around you and say, man, the world's going to crap. But what are you thankful for? What have you been blessed with in this life? How is David or Jake? Do they have a roof over their head? Like, there's other things. Even if you're a person is a homeless person, heck, that guy's got a pair of shoes. He's got some opportunities if he looks in the right places and kind of perseveres in some places, tries to find help. Like, there's plenty to be thankful for in every situation. So I don't know. It kind of just, that video kind of made me really realize also how people who have gender dysphoria, there we go, kind of look at the world a little bit and how they're finding solace. And also Sophia is dealing with other things like chronic illness. She was in the military. She's probably on VA benefits or something like that, like some kind of injury, who knows? But, you know, I don't know that much detail, but, and she didn't go into that much detail about that, but, you know, it's a good guess. A lot of people in VA services deal with that and who are in the Army or the military in general, I should say. And there's a lot of just pain in general that comes from that. And then, you know, the other trauma that she says she dealt with and things that are a part of her journey. She even says that, you know, I don't want to even go back to my birth name because, you know, the name that I have was from, you know, my biological father who was like, you know, a horrible man and all these kind of things. And so it was really just, it made me kind of thankful for things in my life. You know what I mean? And kind of like a good outlook of how people process that kind of stuff. Because I'm not in that person's shoes.
Yeah, you know, it's like you got to think like I deal with some struggles, but at least I'm not a freak, right? That was a joke.
Don't go to her Twitter account.
That was a joke, by the way. Yeah, this kind of thing is like, you know, we've been fed some powerful
Lies?
yeah, deception. That was the
yeah.
word I was looking for. I was like, it's a word that begins with D, but I can't think of it.
Dysphoria.
It's an N word, Alex.
It's an N-word, Alex.
Yeah, we've been fed some powerful deception that basically has convinced many of us, including Christians, that these feelings that people have, whether they be gay or trans or whatever, these feelings they have of, you know, being attracted to their own sex or feeling like they are not their, you know, the sex or gender that they actually are. We've been fed this deception that these feelings are connected to who we are deeply connected to who we are, and that we have to treat them as powerful obstacles to freedom, to freedom and to Christian living, when the reality is just like with anything else, the cross is sufficient for it all. Jesus can transform any life. The Holy Spirit can transform any life. I've seen examples of people who broke free of the transgender identity deception um, upon believing in Christ. I've seen people who basically gave up being gay upon being Christian. And you hear so many stories nowadays of people who, were Christians or claim to be Christians, and they want to tell you these horror stories that these people were they went through some kind of conversion therapy, or they tried to pray the gay away, and they were just like living a lie, and they were really unhappy, and then they either slipped back into it, or they went for so long denying their quote unquote true selves that they ended up becoming twisted. Their desires ended up becoming twisted, and they did something more unspeakable than just some than just plain old homosexuality. Um, and it's very easy to look at that and be like, there's just no hope for, this LGBTQ thing is just going to be with us forever, because, these people are just broken and there's nothing we can do about it. And it's like, that's not the case at all.
Hmm.
We're all broken by sin in various ways, and Christ is the answer to all of it. If we'll seek him and we'll trust in his power for our freedom, we can gain our freedom. And so I always like hearing stories of people who have broken free of that deception in that particular sphere of existence.
And I think something that the world can be so confusing sometimes for everyone. But I think it's important to remember also that stuff like envy and doubt, comparison and jealousy are tools of the enemy. They are tools that like the enemy uses, and that I would argue are integral. Yeah, we're already into controversial statements already, but they are. I'm going to say another one. They are integral to the trans ideology. It's all about do you feel good? Do you feel at home in that body of yours? And it's all to get you to ruin yourself beyond repairability.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in terms of other people who maybe not struggle with this, but are still struggling with identity, as long as you allow God to be in your life and you ask him in, and not only that, but you do the work you're supposed to do at the same time. Not just, oh, guess I'm saved, idle bye. No. As you have to be responsible for where you're at. And whether it be raising your family, providing for yourself or your loved ones, who knows? I think that's really where a lot of people will usually find meaning, even sometimes without God on that part. But you gotta, I think you will eventually find him, or he will find you at some point. And it'll be your choice at that point whether to take that step or not, to make the choice. And and Sophia's not a Christian as far as I understand, or believes in God or mentions him at all. But I think it's interesting how even in looking at it secularistic, what's it called? Looking at it secularly, that the veil of this lie is so easily broken. But living that lie is hard to break. So I don't know. It's just kind of interesting. And That's really all I got to say about it. I just thought it was really interesting to see this video from her or him now. Well, he was always a him.
Yeah, at
Always
no
him.
point
No
was this
point.
person ever a her.
Nope. So, but yeah, I just think it was very, again, sobering, but it was very hopeful, which is kind of the theme of this episode, which is the white pill, David. Not the
Yeah.
blue or the red, but the black and white.
Yeah, we've gone past the red pill. Now it's time to become white pilled.
What about yellow and orange?
Though I'm sure those colors are being held in reserve for some sort of future meme-worthy thing.
I'm going to type in orange pill. It just talks about Adderall and Xanax. I'm getting out of there. Okay, David. Well, that was my first one. What's one on your docket?
Mine is not nearly so
serious
as yours, but one thing that did give me a little bit of hope is all the people coming to the U.S. for the World Cup.
Oh, yeah.
And it was so refreshing to see these people's reaction. It's like they genuinely like America.
Yes!
They love it here.
God bless them, too.
And my God, some of these, like...
Wow, it's not a terrible place.
Yeah, did you hear that apparently... So, the Scots came to Boston for one game.
Yes.
And they drank the whole city dry.
Yes. No, was it the Scots or the Irish? Oh, no, it was Scots because they had the kilts.
Yes, it was the Scots. They drank the whole city dry.
They drank Boston dry.
As that
awesome.
was...
Wait, it was Boston, right?
Yes, it was Boston.
Dude, that's so great. That's hilarious. So yeah, they went to the bars and it's like the bars were making a lot of money. A lot of money not even if it was the World Cup or not, but man, them Scots drank them dry.
But yeah, in every story I've heard out of the World Cup, like the continuous theme running through all of them is that these people are coming to America and they're like, wow, this place is pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, it's kind of kind of the same and the reverse of the Eddie Murphy film.
It's one of those things like for years now, the world has basically been fed propaganda that the U.S. is just this terrible hellhole that people are suffering immeasurably in. And like we're even told that over here, you know? And so we at least have, you know, our own life experience to combat that a little bit. These Europeans, they don't have any of that. They basically all they have is what they see on the news and the stories they hear and the propaganda that they hear. And so they've come to believe that the US is a terrible place and Americans are just all dumb hillbillies. So it's cool to see that, you know, when they're actually exposed to America for real, they love it.
Yeah. I thought that was really cool to see that. Like I heard about the Scots thing and I just heard it like I remember when the World Cup was, I think they had a game in New York, obviously. And then that same night, the Knicks won for the first time in 50 years. They won the NBA Finals. And just the pandemonium that you see in that city, cars break, all the stuff that gets filmed is all the bad stuff, obviously. The cars breaking, the flashing, the twerking, all that kind of stuff. You know, straight out of GTA. But it's no longer a satire. But they don't highlight the good stuff, man. Like, yeah, there's some carjackings going on and some windows being smashed because people are happy that their home team won, which was very confusing to me, but fine, good excuse for a party. But also, speaking of party, these people were having a good time in the U.S. Getting, like, especially New York. God, all the food and the variety of it. The bodegas, David. Like, and even in the other cities, like I remember, I could be wrong about this, but I believe there's some World Cup games in the South as well. And people were coming out and be like, oh my God, what a beautiful landscape. Yeah, it's hot as hell, but man, what a beautiful landscape, and just kind of enjoying America for all the beauty that it has. It's funny we're talking about this because, this week is the 4th of July as we're recording, so, and the release of this episode. So, happy birthday, America, 250 years. So, it was just encouraging to hear that happen and to hear people and the people who are outside the US come in and be like, man, this is a pretty cool place.
Yeah, this is just another example of a spell being broken. You know, we've been fed this deception for so long that America is just the worst place on earth. It's like the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany all rolled into one.
Yep.
And, it's refreshing that people
Yeah.
are finally just seeing the truth.
Yeah.
That this country is awesome. Not that it's without issues.
Mhm.
It's had plenty of issues.
Like
and
every country.
it continues to have issues because countries are made up of people,
Mhm.
and people are all messed up. There's no perfect people. That's the whole reason why we need a savior. It's because we're all sinners. We're all messed up. That's the whole reason why Christ came to reconcile us to the Father, is none of us are perfect. And when you get a bunch of people together and form a country out of them, you don't suddenly get a country that is free from problems. No, in fact, the more people you add to your country, the more the problems multiply. So it's not to say that America is a perfect place. There's plenty of problems, plenty of issues, but it's one of those things is like basically Western people in general, but America in particular, Americans in particular have had to endure this sort of propaganda that we're all just, terrible people who are benefiting from the, colonial system that enslaved the world, and we're just reaping the benefits while all the poor third worlders were crushed underfoot. And it's like we have to, our penance is basically giving up our sense of national identity, giving up our country, in fact, is we're supposed to basically willingly hand it over to people who want to take our rights and freedoms away, as sort of a penance for the awful crime of being born in America.
Mm.
And it's so great to see that spell finally beginning to break.
What's so sad though, and I was actually thinking about it this week, is I know and have met people that think that way who are American, and there's quite a few of them who have that same brainwash, that spell, you could say, over them. And it's so sad. There was a person I was working with, some secretary, and her and her sister, I was like, wait, I know these two people. You guys are sisters? That's amazing. Oh my God. And I was like, yeah, you guys are related. Okay, cool. And she came to visit and she's like, yeah, I'm moving to it wasn't Venezuela, but it was some South American country. And I'm like, why are you moving there? She's like, oh, it's time to get out of here. It's time to move. I'm like, okay, but why there? Well, I'm like, you guys got, she didn't give a whole lot of detail. I said, you got a house or something? She's like, yeah, we got a house. We got a house down there. And, it's just, she didn't give a whole lot of information. I think she expected me to say something politically, like, oh, that's why you're moving out, oh, because of the current administration, but I didn't do that. I was just like, why are you moving? And she kind of just giving me non-answers about it. But I got the gist that she was basically moving because she thinks this country's going down the S-hole, And I thought that was really kind of sad that people are kind of uplifting their whole life, spending all this money to go to some South American country that who knows who they're run by, whether it's the cartels or, whether it's what kind of taxes they take out of them every year, it's who knows, But I think part of that kind of perspective, we'll say, is perspective on the outer world. I see like footage and the food in Ireland, and it makes me want to go there, David. I want to visit. Maybe not live there, but I want to visit. But honestly, that's the only country, maybe besides Spain, that I'd like to visit, or Italy, because of maybe the food and culture and like kind of experience that European sensibility of those locales. However, I think it's also part of like what we're saying, perspective. Like you could say like, well, Europe's going down the tube, which in a lot of ways they are. But people will say the same thing about America too. You know what I mean? And I get where you and me stand and where we're at. But I'm just saying, I think it's about perspective. Like, just because you're going to go to Europe doesn't mean you're going to get captured by, a sex trafficking ring like in Taken. That doesn't mean that's going to happen to you. But it's not out of the realm of possibility. And I would argue that's kind of the case everywhere.
Yeah,
There's just a higher chance in some other places.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like, I'm not going to say here that like, Europe is totally without merit.
Yeah.
That Europeans are all weak and fake and gay, because they're clearly not.
Yeah. We live in California. People think of California the same way.
They're clearly not.
We're basically a European country at this point.
Yeah, in a sense we are.
Yeah.
They're not. I really want to go to Norway someday.
Oh hell yeah! Get all that metal albums. You wanna go into the underground. You wanna go further underground, David.
Dude, I want to see like the fjords.
Oh heck yeah, dude!
I want to see.
Dude, what kind of museums they got over there, man?
I want to see the
your Viking heritage.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. I want to see where Genghis Khan. I don't know where I was gonna go with that.
Anyway, so yeah, and like Europe is obviously a beautiful place, and there's a lot of heritage that it has, and a lot of technology and culture that it's contributed to the world at large.
I mean, without them, we wouldn't have gotten over here.
Yeah, the problem with Europe is that
it's got
the people who are in charge of their countries have decided that they'd rather sell out all that heritage and culture and history for power and monetary gain.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it doesn't seem like the European people who recognize that that's the case are number enough to affect change quite yet.
Yeah, quite yet. Yeah. There are some countries that are starting to get a good foothold on cleaning that up, but it's very slow at this point.
Yeah, it's like there. It's like I have nothing against Europe, nothing against Europeans, but they're in a dire situation.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say, obviously Europe is not a monolith, but a lot of European countries are in a very dire situation right now, and they stand to be taken over if change isn't made. But regardless, I think it's just cool to see that it's possible for them to see the light.
Yeah.
Because this whole World Cup thing proved it. Bunch of Europeans come over here to a place they've been told is like a fascist hellhole for all their lives, and lo and behold, it's pretty awesome actually.
Yeah.
So
they get to see reality for what it is.
Yeah. So that right there gives me hope that, maybe the white man will wake up one day. Maybe the European, specifically the European white man will rise up and take back their countries.
Why does it got to be just the white man, David? Why not the white woman?
Yeah, I mean,
let's both of them. Why not?
the white women as well.
Yeah, white women rise up.
I thought you were gonna say what? I thought you were gonna say what about the non-white people? And I was gonna be like,
Well,
which
non-white people?
Which non-white people have are
the
you
green
know
ones?
have Europe as their ancestral homeland?
The green ones, David.
I also could have gone in the direction of like, well, I guess the Italians can rise up too.
Oh, that would be horrible if like aliens come to the Earth and they're like, we just want one nation to be sacrificed, and you guys are good. And then everybody looks over at Italy like, yeah, get rid of the Italians. It's just they're like, why? It's just they live in a boot. No, just get rid of them. We don't need them.
Oh
They've
man,
done their. They're Mussolini. Anybody?
Italy is a fascinating place, and yeah, for until very recently, they were not considered white.
Yeah,
Which is crazy to me.
Sicilians, baby.
Yeah, white supremacy has become very inclusive and very diverse.
Hasn't it always been that way with the Italians?
In the modern age?
I mean, just watch Sopranos. There's a shade of white. There's a whole lot of shades of white in that show.
Yeah. Obviously, yeah. Like, Southern.
Did I say Sopranos?
Maybe.
Okay, I meant Sopranos. I think I said
Yeah,
Goodfellas.
you said Sopranos.
Okay, good.
Yeah, Southern Europeans obviously have some genetic differences to your Northern Europeans, but they're a heck of a lot more closely related than Europeans are with non-Europeans. So, I would consider them white.
Yeah.
And then,
Fellow
fascinating
Italians.
thing, you know why we celebrate Columbus Day in the U.S.?
Why is that, David?
It isn't just because, we want to... we think that that 1492 boat voyage was the most important thing to our national heritage ever. It's actually because in the before white supremacists became very inviting, inclusive, diverse people, Italian immigrants in this country were very often harshly mistreated by others.
Is that what Gangs in New York is about?
I haven't seen the movie.
I haven't seen it either.
But yeah, so they were Italian immigrants were actually, same with the Irish too, were very harshly treated in the early days of this nation. And basically a bunch of groups lobbied the federal government to recognize Columbus Day as a national holiday so that Americans could look up to an Italian who helped shape their nation. And the idea was that having an Italian as like a kind of hero that we celebrate in this country would help to stop the racial persecution of Italian immigrants in this country. And I don't know if it worked or not, but Columbus Day stuck around.
For a reason,
So
yeah, Little Domino, Christopher Columbus, Big Domino, Sopranos.
Yeah, Christopher Columbus is such a fascinating person too.
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff that history books will not repeat about that guy.
Well, mostly I want to say is that the current narrative is that he was an evil man who enslaved the natives and did all sorts of unspeakable things to them and blah 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 blah. Turns out a lot of that stuff, which is repeated uncritically by many, many people, even today, turns out a lot of that stuff was written by a dude who explicitly hated Christopher Columbus.
Yep.
And so basically this guy just made up all sorts of heinous crap about him to try and smear the guy because he hated him. And people with an agenda took that and ran with it.
Yeah.
And so we're living in this era where Columbus is viewed as like the most evil man to ever exist, and we've got to because of his, terrible evil, we got to replace Columbus Day with some other kind of holiday, to right the wrongs that have been done against the natives and blah, 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 blah. And it's just like,
Why don't they do that for other holidays that are
it's
about
not,
questionable men?
it's not based in fact. Like, even leftists, when they're actually being honest for once, like, will admit that a lot of the more heinous things that you hear being thrown around about Columbus are in fact made up by a dude who hated him. In fact, I think my first exposure to that was from a leftist YouTuber.
Shoe on head?
No,
Oh, bummer.
different kind of leftist. Uh, like shoe on
Grace
head.
Randolph.
Shoot, no,
No, I'm
this
joking.
is a dude.
That's
I
a
don't
joke.
actually remember his name. The
Boogie.
channel name was like Thought Slime, I think.
Oh, whoa. What kind of thought we talking about?
Like brain thought.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it was called like Thought Slime or whatever.
Yeah, because that has a different connotation with the THOAT.
Yeah, no, it wasn't
Wasn't that
ki-
thought slime?
wasn't that kind of Thought Slime.
Okay, good.
But yeah, basically he was like a full blown
Full blown.
like anarchist. He was an anarchist. And he just made videos about various political topics and whatnot. And before, like, I just randomly came across his video about Columbus, and he was actually going over the idea that, Columbus is actually not as evil of a man as many have been led to believe. Not that, not that he was...
Not that he was perfect.
Yeah, not that he was perfect. And by modern morality, he probably wasn't the greatest guy, but also, it's kind of difficult judging people.
Yeah. They
judging
slapped their
people
kids
who-
around a lot back then.
Yeah, it's difficult judging people who lived back then by modern morality just because life was so much different than it is now.
Dude, yeah.
But yeah, so
I think that's a different conversation, but that's also the context that a lot of people miss when reading history is what, like, in the era that this is telling, like, in the context of the era of these people and why they did these things. The world was brutal before the light bulb, man. And it was even brutal far before then. So, like, I mean, you ever read of Rome? Like, man, dude. Like,
yeah, and all this too is to say is like, as me being a white man and appreciative of white culture and the various white cultures that existed throughout history. That's not to say that white societies were just perfect and that it was all the other societies that were savages. No, it's like the reason why many Western countries have very different cultures than non-white countries really has more to do with Christianity than it has to do with the genetics of being white. Because you look at pre-Christian Europe, and it was an awful, brutal place.
yep.
Like, sure, there was some obviously some there's a rich history and culture even in pre-Christian Europe, but there's rich history and culture in a lot of places, in a lot of ancient civilizations, but that doesn't erase the fact that these ancient cultures were brutal and evil and barbaric in many, many, many ways. And what ended up making Europe different than many of the non-Western cultures that surrounded it was Christianity. Christianity took root so deeply in Europe that basically white people have forgotten how to be pagans. Like, you'll find plenty.
I was like, wait, what?
You'll find plenty of white people who are like claim that they're like, getting back to their pagan roots and all this stuff. And it's like all those people are LARPing.
Yeah, those tarot TikTokers.
Like all those people who, claim to follow like the Viking religion or, like the Druid religion or whatever, whatever ancient pre-Christian European belief they are pretending to espouse. It's like they're all LARPing. Like we actually know very little about how pre-Christian Europe, like what actual specific cultural practices they had. I mean, we have stuff from like larger empires like Rome because they were very highly developed civilization that wrote everything down. So we have records of that. But as far as like, the Vikings, the various societies that existed on the British Isles before the introduction of Christianity, our record of those people's culture and beliefs is actually quite murky. So when you come across people who claim to, they're gonna like reclaim the ancient pagan traditions behind like Christmas or an Easter or whatever, it's like they're just LARPing.
Yeah,
Like,
we there's so much brutality. Like again, that context thing I'm talking about. Like there's so much brutality of that day. Like I was watching that show, The House of David, the like Bible show or whatever on Amazon.
mm-hmm.
And like they have a little bit of a glimpse of like witches and witch doctors and stuff like that, and it gives you like an idea of like there was like, I mean, to cover one's sins was a sacrifice of an animal, is what the Bible says in the Old Testament. Now imagine, now that was the good way of doing things. Imagine what the pagans were doing in opposite of that. It wasn't just a lamb. It was people.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of ish going on. Have you ever heard of Elisha, man? Like, come on, man. Like, not you, just you and you, general you, David.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and of course you had, again, this all stuff is pretty murky, but we do have some knowledge of things that were done in pre-Christian times. And, boy, let me tell you, it wasn't good. Like the worship of Moloch.
oh God.
The idea of like the hands of a statue being heated with fire and then an infant being placed into those hands and just watching it burn to death is something that like the modern mind can't even comprehend such brutality. And so, yeah, it's just like crazy to think that like
it gets into the conversation of superior cultures, and this is where we got in trouble. I think last time we talked about this, when we talked about like Christian nationalism and superior cultures, and I think we even had a highlight about where we talked about Grave of the Fireflies and the such, how some cultures are superior to the other. And this is a whole can of worms in general, but the brutality of those cultures that are represented in Indigenous Peoples Day, in reverse of what Columbus brought, and the idea of what he brought is totally different. I'd rather not honor those savage, they were called savages for a reason,
Yeah. And, it's like we talk about it's like some cultures are better than other. Not all cultures are equal.
Oh!
And that's sort of a controversial statement to make, but like
I'd rather have
we're not coming from it from the perspective of like some kind of like genetic superiority.
Yeah, nah.
We're coming from it through just objective like European culture became what it did because of Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole point of Christianity is that Christ came to redeem fallen man.
And also,
so so when we talk about not all cultures are equal, we're talking about um, how much godliness is in a culture, one versus the other, because that's where the difference in culture lies, is what cultures are godlier than others, and there's a difference. Um, like there's obviously there and there's obviously Christian nations, or at least until very recently there were Christian nations in places other than Europe, like the Kingdom of Jordan in the Middle East was a Christian nation for many years. Ethiopia was traditionally a Christian nation.
mhm.
Um,
They're the reason we have the Book of Enoch nowadays,
and so
partially.
there's obviously been other Christian nations besides the nations of Europe, but the nations of Europe are standalone because Christianity uh, wove itself more deeply into the fabric of those nations, I believe, than it did anywhere else. And that's why Europe kind of became sort of the beacon of civilization to the world,
Yeah.
not because of the genetic superiority of Europeans, but because godliness had become so infused into the culture of European nations that it highlighted how barbaric and evil the godless nations were.
And also, Christianity was the moralistic foundation of our modern laws and our modern court system, which originates from Europe. So that's how integral it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's also a kind of discussion to be had of why would even people bring up about genetic superiority when we're all kind of, well, for lack of a better term, mutts? I got Irish, Scottish in me, and I got German Jew and something
Well,
else in me. But why? I mean,
I
it's all
mean,
mixed together.
you know,
So
genetic superiority has always been,
there's no real genetic superiority, is what I'm saying, basically.
well,
Except for the Irish. We like the Irish.
yeah, I mean,
I'm joking.
it depends. That there's definitely more nuance
Yeah, nuanced. Yeah.
to that, but I will say that the idea of genetic superiority is usually a fascination of non-believers
Mhm.
trying to claim the benefits of living in Christian culture without acknowledging Christ.
Hmm.
That's where you get, like, you know, the Hitlers of the world
Yeah.
who um
Well,
who believed in like the genetic superiority of the Aryan race. Um, I mean, he had his beliefs
kooky.
are definitely go way deeper than that. But, like, you know, he had a fundamental belief in the genetic superiority of the Northern Europeans, what he called the Aryan race, and basically that whole ideology was constructed so that he could sort of claim the successes and benefits of living in a Christian nation, that is, live the Christian nations of Northern Europe, without acknowledging that Christ was the source of those things.
Christ being the foundation of those things.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes, Christ was the reason, because, you know, it's like it's like
It was
you I
a
like
perverted way of looking at the
like
world.
you look at slavery, for instance.
Yes.
Like, slavery is universally condemned in white Western nations and has been for over 100 years at this point.
Mhm.
Um And then you look in other parts of the world where slavery still exists. And then you look at other parts of the world where slavery is outlawed, but they outlawed it a whole lot more recently than Western nations did.
Yep.
And the only reason why those nations outlawed it is because of pressure put on them by the West. Like the British and the Americans at two separate points in history actually went to war against other nations over the practice of slavery.
Yeah.
So like in a very measurable sense, like Europe has been like a cultural light amongst the nations. And so you had people like Hitler who didn't want to acknowledge Christ, who wanted to claim that heritage from being born into that culture. They wanted to claim the glory that came along with that, but they didn't want to acknowledge that Europeans and Westerners in general got rid of slavery because they were transformed. Their culture was transformed by the pervasive and deep influence of Christianity to hate slavery as a moral principle. And this transformation took a long, long, long time because Christianity's been around for, over 2,000 years at this point. Well,
Maybe more than that. Yeah, I get you.
But slavery didn't get abolished in the West until much more recently than that. So it took some time.
Yeah.
It took some time, but once that influence, that the transformation that being a follower of Christ brings, once that started spreading through society more and more and more fully, transforming the culture, once that it had reached, that transformation had reached a milestone, a visible milestone of, look, we abolished slavery in every Western nation, and even in some non-Western nations by sheer force because we find it morally repulsive. So that's a heritage that people who are born into these Western nations have. And so the temptation is for people who don't want to acknowledge Christ is they got to come up with some other way of claiming that heritage other than giving glory to God.
Yeah.
So that's where genetic superiority comes into the equation. I think it's because a lot of times Christians get accused of being racist, white supremacists, all this, that, and the other thing. But when you look at the actual claims of genetic superiority that fuel certain the racial hatred in certain movements, you find that that actually comes from non-Christian sources.
So who are the genetically superior, David? And what does it have to do with Calvinism?
Well, those are the questions that would be asked by any soul searching for truth.
Oh, man. You ready to talk about He-Man, David?
Sure, why not?
All right, from Hitler to He-Man. Wow, what a transition. All right, well, my second one I have on the docket here is, and this is what I titled it, David, Positive Masculinity. This is my second white pill example. Positive Masculinity in the new Masters of the Universe film. And I'll just read this here. It's a great film. This was my quote to like my sisters, because Chelsea went to go see it like the night before I did, and I drove to Chico, did some errands, and had a day off, and I was able to see it. And walking out of the theater, my quote for this film is, "It's a great film about bonding with your drunk stepdad." Now, the film I would describe is a more than serviceable action flick. Of course, based off the 1980s cartoon made to sell toys. It flopped at the box office here in our year of our Lord 2026, but provided a really surprising message that I found at least, using your positive masculinity, stepping up even when you are down, but more notably, the kind of commentary it did through the script about reboots and how important it is to being a decent man. It has this weird thing, David, watching the film, with the character Men at Arms played by Idris Elba, and where the film has him basically as Jake Skywalker. You know, that the newly coined term, David, Jake Skywalker. From Last Jedi, instead of Luke Skywalker, it's Jake Skywalker. He's a washed up Luke Skywalker. You know, he has no redemption, you know?
I don't think
You never
I've
heard of
never
Jake
heard that term.
Skywalker? So basically, I'm not going to explain what The Last Jedi is. For God's sakes, I'm not going to.
We've talked about that enough on the podcast.
But Man at Arms, played by Idris Elba, plays this washed up, drunk, like Jake Skywalker archetype, where he's washed up, he's this hero of former glory, he's sitting in his own vomit, and he's seen the world through the black pill, David, the exclusive negative lens, see no hope at all at life. I thought you were going to say something there. Anyway, but in the film, he is the character who, by the way, Idris Elba plays great, just wonderfully. He's the character that decides to make the choice to stand up and attempt to become his former hero self, for the sake of his daughter, the Tila character, and for He-Man himself. You see this through the film, and to be the man that his children need. Not for his sake, but for the sake of the next generation. And through this change, Man at Arms becomes the hero that He-Man looks up to throughout the film. And he's the inspiration for He-Man when He-Man is at his lowest for He-Man to become the leader Eternia needs to stand up to Skeletor. The last thing I have written on this is this. There's also a betrayal of how being politically correct has gotten so out of hand in the world, especially in the workplace. There's a whole subplot, and it's shown at He-Man's job as an HR assistant, which is pretty hilarious, not gonna lie. He's a very burly man. He's a man's man. He's a blonde, blue-eyed, big white Hitler Youth-looking boss. Not really, but he's just this burly dude working in a soy-filled world, David. He's broken down by a corporation focused on using the right pronouns and using fear-based behavior of not offending anyone. And while at the same time, it's breaking his spirits and dreams of escape while he works in a very PC-oriented environment. And basically, like, the film has this weird example of Men at Arms where he is this Jake Skywalker character, but he turns his life around for the sake of the next generation, which is really cool, which you don't see in The Last Jedi. Not really. And then it also has a commentary on reboots in the sense of, and with that aspect, but it also comments on the culture and how this PC wokeness is really a detriment in the end and really gets in the way of people becoming who they truly are. And I thought those undertones would very easily be missed. That's what I took away from the film, just watching it. I wasn't really on board with it until about maybe halfway through the film. Like, it's a good action movie. It's like, I don't think you would like it very much, David, but I had a lot of fun with it. And it's not a great movie, except for Jared Leto as Skeletor. He is perfect as Skeletor. Just the right kookiness and creepiness, and not creepy, but the right kookiness and like scariness, I guess, that like Skeletor kind of embodies. And Jared Leto does a really good job at balancing that. And in fact, this role for Jared Leto as Skeletor is like it's kind of a redemption for Joker. Not redempting the Joker character he played, but he made things right as Skeletor. So I thought it was kind of interesting that this new He-Man movie, even though it was, a flop at the box office and people did not like it critically, from what I see, especially if you go on YouTube and whatnot. A lot of people call it trash. I don't think it's for everybody, but I thought it was a very cool homage to the cartoon, as well as the memery surrounding the cartoon, which I was not expecting them to pay homage to. Like in the end of the film, there's a bunch of characters laughing like because of a joke, and they put their hands on their like waist and lean back and laugh. Oh, ha, ha, ha. Like it's like it's so funny. It's literally the scene from Final Fantasy X on the beach where that character, I don't know Final Fantasy, that character is laughing. Like, oh my God. So it was hilarious. It's a good time. But I thought those undertones were interesting, and it's something you wouldn't see in really in Hollywood in general. So I just thought of that as a shining example of, maybe not shining, but a good example of kind of there's a little bit more hope in the world, even though this movie failed.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is I actually heard good things about it. So, I
I'm really intrigued to see what you think of it.
I didn't like I wasn't interested enough in it to see it in the theaters, but you know, I'll watch it eventually.
Yeah, it'll come to Prime. It's an MGM film, so
So yeah, I've
yeah.
definitely but I have heard good things about it, even from people who would, you know, normally not be interested in films of this nature.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely don't am going to watch it at some point. But yeah, it's kind of cool that it's just like it could have easily been an opportunity for some ideologically captured writer or director to come in and subvert all the things that made you know, that people actually liked about He-Man, and to try and spread their message, as they've done with so many other reboots of various franchises, and has been done with the He-Man Masters of the Universe franchise in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But so that they, you know, didn't do that and instead leaned into the things that people actually enjoy about He-Man, that I thought that was really cool.
The film has, when I first saw it, it was kind of shocking how they were trying to balance this kookiness and kind of sort of seriousness. It was very bizarre, the campiness, I should say. And also, I think you could make an argument, like, I don't know what Critical Drinker thinks of it, but I could see him making an argument that Tila's more of a girl boss character. But they subvert your expectation in that, because you think, oh, she's probably going to save the day part way, and she's going to be a big help for He-Man, which she is in a way.
Actually, he did not have that complaint.
Really?
I watched his review of the film. He did not have that complaint.
Because I think you would think that if you watch just the first half of this film, and then He-Man becomes He-Man. He becomes He-Man. And he becomes who he's meant to be. And it's cool to see that journey, and it's more about working together than anything else.
Yeah, and basically,
that was cool.
Yeah, he makes that same observation in his review of it.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, it was his review of it, and then Red Letter Media.
I knew you were
reviewed
going to
it,
say that.
and they both had positive things to say about it. So I was
Dang,
like,
really?
So I was like, wow, maybe this
Wow.
movie is not complete trash after all. I don't know yet because I haven't watched it, but you know,
I think you'll like it at least.
I've heard good things.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, also one thing I've heard about it is that it doesn't do the whole Marvel thing as much, where it's like, you know, like the humor is just, where the humor is in like the quips and the jokes that that they insert into serious scenes and whatnot. That's, you know, the MCU is basically,
It's ruined things.
Has had that effect on a lot of films. And so one thing I've heard is that this doesn't have as much of that as you might expect it to have, which is kind of refreshing.
Yeah, you're not going to have a scene where a character's father is dying and then there's a quip made about it like 2 seconds later. The scene is a sad scene, you know?
Yeah. What it sounds like, again, I haven't watched it, but what it sounds like is the humor in the film is more just like the actors are playing it completely straight and seriously, but then there's just absurd things happening on the screen.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Which is kind of more my style of comedy
Yeah.
anyway. I'm a big fan of Airplane.
Yeah.
Which is like, I just watched a video on this, and it seemed so obvious before. It seemed so obvious, but I guess I never really thought about it. But it was like, Airplane was like, the whole point of it was to make a comedy movie that didn't have any comedians or any actors with any sort of comedic who are trying to play the role in any comedic way as possible. Like, basically,
Yeah, they played it all straight in Airplane.
like, Airplane is a like almost a shot for shot remake of an older movie called 0 Hour.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that too. Yeah.
And they basically follow the story to a T. Like, all the characters play everything completely seriously. The music, the lighting, the camera work is all done as if it were a serious disaster movie. But then there's just the writing and the absurdity of the things that are happening on screen is what makes it funny. And so, from what I've heard, this has a little bit more of that than it does the, Marvel style humor.
Yeah.
Which I will admit that I enjoyed in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and then Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, Ragnarok. Ragnarok's a good example of that kind of stuff.
Like,
but it's like
it
so absurd.
Yeah, I enjoyed it in those movies. I think because it was also balanced by some scenes where,
yes,
like, they were playing it completely seriously,
yeah,
while absurd things were happening on screen.
Yeah.
But like some of the later ones, like Thor: Love and Thunder, it's just like it just like ruins the tension of those movies. Well, and the sad thing about Thor: Love and Thunder is, like, there was the potential for some seriously great drama in that. Like,
you got Christian Bale.
Yeah, Christian Bale's performance as the villain in that movie was amazing. And they just squandered all that potential for real drama just with all this stupid jokes they had to make like every 5 seconds.
Yeah. That's my biggest problem with Taika Waititi's Ragnarok versus Love and Thunder. It's Ragnarok had an emotional core where it was Anthony Hopkins, the Father Odin, All-Father Odin, and Thor finally becoming who he's meant to be. Then it has that emotional core, and it's really well done, I think, personally, in that film. Then you get to Love and Thunder, and Thor is kind of still trying to find himself again. And there's no emotional core at all in that film. It's just wacky stuff happening over and over and over.
And Natalie Portman being, the
She-Thor.
She-Thor,
not She-Ra, She-Thor.
Yeah.
Which I actually didn't really have an issue about that. I think the Valkyrie character is more atrocious in that sense, but Natalie Portman, I think, was fine in that sense.
Yeah, Natalie Portman was actually less objectionable than the Valkyrie, which is really funny because
like Tessa Thompson in Ragnarok's a good character, but in this, it's kind of like you said, squandered.
I didn't like her in Ragnarok either. In fact, that was my major gripe with the movie.
Tessa Thompson.
Yeah, they should have just scrapped the Valkyrie character.
Yeah,
but obviously they had to for the message. They couldn't get rid of it.
And I remember when they announced Love and Thunder, they're like, yeah, and Valkyrie's looking for her queen. Yeah, she's a lesbian. And then we don't even see the queen at all. They totally backstepped on that.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you? The ending of Love and Thunder was kind of cute, where all the kids get powers. That was kind of cute. But other than that, it was kind of a waste, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was like, it could have been, like, the plot had some potential, and there was definitely potential with the performances, but it was just like...
did you hear... Sorry to interrupt you, But Idris Elba, Ragnarok, He-Man. Did you hear who does the guitar for the main theme of Master of the Universe?
No.
Brian May.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's definitely appropriate.
So I was like, what?
That's pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a groovy soundtrack, we'll say.
Brian May.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
So cool, dude. But anyway, yeah, let's keep going, David. What's yours?
I feel like we might have to cut it off after this one.
No, just keep going, David. Let's go as long as we can.
And do the rest of them later.
No, it's a beefy episode.
I don't know if
Am I losing you?
I don't know if I have a beefy episode in me.
You should have drank that beer I told you about that you don't have.
That I don't have. Yeah.
All right. Well, what's yours, David?
Let's see. What's a good one here? I have a few things written down, but
we can go quickly through them if you want.
What's a good one? Let's see. So, yeah, I guess let's get some. Let's just hit them off rapid fire. So one thing is that's kind of white pilled me in the last few weeks or so is Rupert Lowe's Restore Britain party in the UK is really, really coming up in prominence.
Getting political, which we haven't yet, right?
Yeah, no, totally. And this one, I'm kind of like a casual observer of British politics. I'm not like super following it super closely, but I follow enough.
Which means you just watched Sargon and Dankula. That's what that means.
I also follow Rupert Lowe on Facebook.
Oh.
I mean, I heard about him through.
His name sounds familiar. Actually.
I heard about him through.
That's the guy who's in Harry
Sargon
Potter,
of
right?
Akkad.
He's the guy that's in Harry Potter, right? How do you spell his name? Lowe?
Yes.
Rupert Lowe. Man, he sure looks British. No offense.
So yeah. So he was a conservative member of parliament or MP in the UK for many years. And then when Nigel Farage and the Reform Party started coming up as in the last couple of years started coming up as an alternative to the Conservatives because the Conservatives basically failed the country. This is actually in Britain, it's actually the case that like the Conservative, like Labour is their left-wing party, and then the Conservatives are their quasi right-wing party.
Quote.
They're more like centrist. And obviously, Labor has all the same like evil policy goals that Democrats in the US have. But the difference is in the modern world, much of the damage was actually done by the Conservatives. The Conservatives were in power for quite a while in Britain, and under Boris Johnson, the
boar.
Under Boris Johnson as prime minister, the Conservative Party had a couple different people as prime minister while they were in power. But under Boris Johnson, that's actually when like the mass immigration in the UK actually like really, really ramped up. They call it the Boris wave. So a big portion of the migrants that are causing problems in Britain now came as a result of that Boris wave, as they call it. And then, people were mad at the Conservatives, so they voted Labour in, not because they wanted Labour's policies, but just because they didn't want to vote for the Conservatives. And the Labour was all too happy to continue the trend of letting people in by the millions, But, yeah, so in British politics, Yeah, basically the people voted in the Conservative Party, and the Conservative Party betrayed them and did exactly what the people did not want them to do, which was kickstart mass migration to an absurd degree. Um, and so, yeah, the Conservative Party at this point has no hope. They don't have like a Donald Trump figure leading them who can still get people to vote for him, because we're kind of in a similar boat over here where people don't trust the Republican Party. Um, but the difference is we have had certain people within the Republican Party that people are more willing to follow, like people like Donald Trump. So that's why the Republicans have managed to be successful as they have been in this country, is because of the influence of people like Donald Trump. Unfortunately, the British were not that lucky. They did not have a Trump in their political party to turn things around. So they're stuck with the old guard conservatives who just basically want to
Keep things the way they are.
keep things the way they are. And so it got to the point where people were craving an alternative. That's when the Reform Party um, started gaining ground and gaining popularity, and that's when when they started gaining ground and gaining popularity, then a man by the name of Nigel Farage hooked up with them. And Nigel Farage has always been kind of like the populist figurehead in the UK. Um, and he's been associated with a lot of different parties over the years. But so this time around, Reform was a party that was starting to come up because people were looking to them as an alternative to the betrayal of the Conservative Party.
Yeah.
And so Nigel Farage during that period hooked up with them, and because of how well known he is among the British right, that made Reform's popularity soar ever higher. And so
Is Nigel still part of that party?
yeah, he's still part of Reform.
Okay.
And so it's in this environment that Rupert Lowe finally had enough and of the Conservatives, and so he switched over to Reform. And
he switched over to Reform. Okay.
yeah, he switched over to Reform, but then there was a problem. Basically,
how long is this quick thing gonna go?
Sorry. So
go ahead, you continue.
So basically, it's come out more recently that Nigel Farage is kind of a duplicitous person. He's he's not as bad as not as bad as some of the others, but he does have some of that duplicitous politician streak in him, and like he's stacked the Reform Party with a lot of ex-conservative politicians who were actually like in charge of immigration during the aforementioned Boris wave.
Oh boy.
So not a good look. And when people start talking about like things like mass deportations, which Britain needs to happen, and the British public is starting to really want that.
Yeah.
Nigel Farage says, "Oh, whoa, I don't know about mass deportations. I mean, that's a little too extreme, you know." So, like Nigel Farage is kind of like the best they had for a while as far as a politician who actually, represented people's interests. But even him, he's kind of slimy and duplicitous, and unfortunately, there was a falling out between him and Rupert Lowe. He basically tried to have Rupert Lowe put in jail over some accusations.
Farage?
Yeah.
Damn.
And, this is, of course, some of this is speculation, but the timing of it is interesting because these accusations surface right as Rupert Lowe was starting to gain popularity within Reform for being willing to talk about
the mass deportation.
the mass
and all that stuff,
deportations.
and the rape gangs and all that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
So while Farage and others in Reform were kind of like, no, don't talk about that, don't be so explicit about it. Rupert Lowe was like, no, we need to talk about this stuff. Mass deportations need to happen. And
Yeah.
he was starting to become a rising star within the party because of that. And so it was really interesting that right when he was doing that, that's when these accusations that later turned out to be not true came up, and basically they kicked him out of the party and had him investigated by the police. So Rupert Lowe formed his own party called the Restore Britain Party. And
wow,
it's been very white-pilled because this is not just it could turn out to be that, but so far it's looking like this is not just another political party. Like Rupert Lowe has been very open about exactly what policy steps he wants to take to help restore Britain back to its former glory. He's been very vocal about accountability for the whole rape gang situation. He's been very vocal about the need for mass deportations. He's been very vocal about the need for laws to change in Britain so that they benefit the British people and not migrants. And he's like, his party is a very tiny percentage of the overall electorate in Britain at the moment, but also his party is less than a year old at this point. And so the rate that they're growing,
you got Reform people hopping on that one, basically, and other people.
You got Reform people hopping on it, but you've also got people who just were like totally black-pilled when it came. Who were totally black-pilled when it came to politics, who didn't vote at all because they're just like, what's going to change?
Yeah, what's going to change? Yeah.
So like so he wasn't just cannibalizing like former conservatives and former Reform people. He was also actually, and I've seen this because I follow him on Facebook, so I've seen a bunch of people like, man, I never voted before, but like, Rupert Lowe, you're saying all the things that I've never heard any politician say, so I want to vote for you now, kind of a thing. Very almost kind of like the same energy that Trump had, except Rupert Lowe is actually a lot more direct about it even than Trump was.
Yeah.
So all that to say is, as dire of a situation as the political situation is in Britain at the moment, just the fact that there's somebody out there who is working for the interests of the British public is encouraging. And it's encouraging to see that even in the very short time that he's been his own party, like the amount of support that he's managed to pick up and the amount of attention he's managed to get.
It's interesting. I'm going through his Twitter feed right now, just scanning over a whole bunch of stuff. He's very active on there. And I mean, what I'm seeing is stuff I'm not British. I don't live in the UK, but this is definitely stuff I can get on board with, especially the stuff we've experienced in this country and how some of the worst examples we've seen in the last 5 to 10 years, even more, give or take. And I remember, I think it was 10 years ago now to this year, where I was starting to watch some of the Tommy Robertson documentaries about the rape gangs and how of an issue it was and how it was being covered up by the BBC and all these other people. And that whole thing is just kind of crazy. No, it is crazy to think that it's that of a much of a problem, even more so now. I mean, imagine where us as America was 2 or 3 years ago under Biden. It's like that in Europe right now, or not in UK, I should say. And not just the UK, but Ireland and Scotland and all this such and Wales. So it's like, I don't know. I'm very ignorant. I've kind of not really followed any of the Sargons or the Lotus Eaters or any of that, but it's interesting to see how fast this guy's grown. And I think Nigel, just from hearing this information, I don't know everything, but even some of the stuff I've seen last year, it seems like Nigel's just trying to salvage his political career, of what's left of it, and trying to play both sides as well as he can to stay in. But it seems like Rupert's like, no, like full bore. Let's get in there. Let's do this. Because the country, especially with them, they're a smaller country, and yeah, they don't have the strength or the GDP of America, but that's very much because of how they just keep deteriorating because of this mass importation of migrants.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's probably a lot of people out there, how dare you say that? And it's like, dude, there's a lot of freaking criminals that are in the UK right now. Same thing with America and France, a lot of other countries. And they are sucking the life, literally, out of the people, the GDP, everything. And their ideals do not line up with the Western values we have.
Yeah, and the really bad thing about the situation in Europe, especially in the UK, is that you can see with your own eyes the deterioration that mass immigration is causing, and then when you speak up about it,
yeah,
the government arrests you for a Facebook post or a Twitter post, because you didn't have the approved correct opinion on migrants.
Yeah, I mean, all I have to see right now is the fact the BBC doesn't like this guy makes me kind of like the guy. Because I don't like the BBC.
Yeah.
A bunch of schmucks, man. Same thing with like PBS and stuff over here. It was all funded by the government at one point and their talking piece. Same thing with a lot of other news outlets.
Yeah, modern media organizations are just basically designed to discredit anything that is a threat to the government's power at this point.
Yeah. Tommy Robinson kind of reminds me of what like Steven Crowder first started back before the Trump days and or during the Trump days too, where he was kind of shining a light on certain cultural issues that were detriment to the survival of our country and our culture. And Tommy Robinson was doing the same exact thing. And yeah, he ain't perfect, and neither is Steven Crowder. But those people who shine a light on the pure darkness that is embellishing the culture and the country itself and the people of the country, like fire and brimstone goes through those people's lives. And it's not an easy life. And the fact that those people are still doing that, Crowder and Robinson, goes to show like how much they believe in what they're doing. And I think Rupert, just from hearing about him, what you're describing, is kind of carrying that torch on. So, who knows? Maybe it'll work out. I hope so. For UK's sake.
Yes, indeed.
Did you have another one in your rapid fires?
You
have any others in your rapid fire you want to touch on? Or do you want me to go through rapid fire my two?
Let's see. What else do we
got? I have somewhat of a long one and then a very, very short one to end with.
Okay. Yeah, I got one. We've been kind of talking about it, so I won't go too deeply into it, but I'll bring it up just in case you want to comment on it. Been very white-pilled by
what have you been white-pilled about this week, son?
The fact that social media is just getting censored less.
Yay! I mean, even YouTube. Like, I do want to comment on that because under this new administration, it's finally nice to see that it's a neutral playing field, an actual neutral playing field. From following people on YouTube and social media for years that get censored, that get court orders handed to them by the government, Same thing with the UK, like that's happening now. That's been happening for the last decade and a half. Us Americans have dealt with it too in various forms. Canada is a big proponent of serving people papers and ruining their lives because of what they say on social media. I mean, just a few to mention. So Lauren Chen, Lauren Southern, a lot of folks like that. And it's just a beautiful thing to see that these companies are actually, for lack of a better term, falling in line with actually being neutral. Now, you can't, for the sake of everything good and holy, get a representative on YouTube to talk about whatever issue you got. They purposely built it that way, and a lot of other media companies do too, where they built in a certain way where you cannot talk to an actual person about the problems you're having. The algorithm, you're at the whim of the algorithm, no matter what you do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, same thing with like PlayStation or whatever. But it's so nice to see that there's actual neutrality, even, dare I say, on Facebook, which has been a big perpetrator of a lot of this.
Yeah, it's one of those things is like Facebook was so censorious before.
I mean, you're the guy that uses it most out of the two people in this room. You're the guy that uses it the most. So how's your experience been in the most recent years?
Yeah, basically ever since Obama's third term got finished,
Got stopped.
like it's just Facebook has become a much more open place where ideas can be discussed with relative freedom that just wasn't possible before. You know, some of the stuff we've been talking about in this episode is I personally don't find my views on the subject extreme or racist or whatever. And I know a lot of other people who don't feel that way either, but it's like, in the before time, we wouldn't have been able to have this discussion on Facebook.
Nope.
We would not have been able to talk about this stuff. And now you can. And it's not perfect, but the fact that you can talk about it now when you couldn't before is reason to celebrate.
I totally agree. It's such a breath of fresh air that, I mean, one of the reasons I was so cautious when we first started was I'm like, I mean, we're under Biden, man. Like, I don't know. We might get our YouTube channel shut down if we say the word rape, or talk about the way we've talked about the trans ideology today. But it's a breath of fresh air. It's a really nice and reassuring. Now, if you're not in America, that's a different topic. But it's kind of nice to just have the weight off your shoulders.
Yeah, it's nice.
Come to America, Lockmort. We want you here. And Sargon, all you guys.
It's nice to finally have the First Amendment again.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. All right. You know what, David? I'm going to save my last long one for, I think, probably a Theo Bros. I think it would fit better in that, actually, because I think it kind of goes in what I think Charles talked about it too. But anyway, well, I'm going to save that for that. It has to do with the spells we were talking about earlier. But do you have any other small ones before I end it off with mine? Because I got a small one I do want to subtly talk about with you at the very end. Or is that it?
Let's see. Let me look at it one more time.
Looking at that list. He's getting that list going. Little boy.
So
come and sit on my lap and tell me some of the things that make you white pill.
Yeah, I have a couple things I'll just rapid fire real quick. The hantavirus thing.
Huh?
I heard. Yeah, the media tried so hard to turn that into another COVID scare, and I was just like so happy to see that people just were not having it.
Gotcha.
So that was definitely a white pill moment for me. It's like, hell no, we ain't going back to that.
We ain't going back there.
You can't play the same trick again. Expects us to fall for it.
That's like the definition of insanity.
And then another thing that was really uplifting was, we're starting to go back to our Christian heritage here. We've talked about in this very episode that Christianity is the moral foundation of the West.
Mm.
And here in America, we're getting back to that slowly. We're getting back to that. The Texas just passed a law um, that now has Bible passages as part of the required reading for uh, public schools in Texas.
Interesting.
I think they
Which
mentioned
is why it used to be. The way it
um,
used to be.
I think they mentioned they mentioned two specific passages um, and how they highlighted that these things contained, lessons on the moral foundation of American society. And so students need to read those and learn about them. So, and, a lot of people are upset over it, and I'm sure there's going to be some kind of court challenge, but God willing, they'll make it through, and we'll have that much more, one more foothold on the path to taking our country back.
It reminds me of reading about all the old 80s Becca books that I did back in the day. The hand-me-down books I did when I was homeschooled. There were some Bible verses in there. And that's all I really have to say about that topic. Good on you, Texas. Any others?
That's about it.
The last one I got for you, David, and it's half joking, but it's also serious, is the goddamn trailer of Robert Eggers' Werewolf dropped today.
Oh, it did?
Oh my God, we got to go out and watch it right after this episode. You haven't seen it?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God, it looks... It's 4x3, black and white, and color.
4x3.
Well, it's square. It's square. It's like the lighthouse, but it's werewolf, and it's his interpretation of the werewolf. And oh my God, man, it looks like the freakiest thing he is ever gonna make. And I am so down. We are so back, boys. Baby, we are so back. Robert Eggers just making whatever the hell he wants to make. I feel like it's going to be a repeat, though, David, or no, because I like the last two. I had two stinkers for me and two winners. I had, The Witch and the Lighthouse, which I was like, for me personally. And then The Northman and Nosferatu. That's a big one. So is the cycle going to stop? Is it going to be 0-5? Like the Knicks, everybody thought the Knicks would be at, Like, are we going to is this going to be another stinker? Is this going to be another Lighthouse, David? Or is this going to be Nosferatu?
See, that's the thing.
We got to go watch the trailer, man.
That's the thing, man.
God,
it's like,
so cool.
You hating on The Lighthouse. The Lighthouse was a great film. Lighthouse was
great. I think it's almost great. I think it's a fantastic film. But I don't know if I would put it up with like the greats.
Well, I mean, it's not great in the sense that it's like one of the greatest films ever made.
I think it's a very well-made film.
Yes, it's a very well-made film.
Very well-made film. Incredibly well-made.
It's
really,
not for everyone.
No, hell no.
But I greatly enjoyed watching it.
Especially watching it with me, which I was freaking out at. Like, ah! God, us watching that. Go watch the Snarp Fangle episode that was released in October of 2025, where I was like, the thumbnail is my eyes from A Clockwork Orange, and just go listen to that episode, because, oh my God, that movie is effed up and so messed up, dude. But it was an incredible experience, to say the very least.
I haven't seen The Witch either, so I have no opinion on The Witch.
You'll probably have to, I'm not going to watch it with you. You'll have to watch it on your own. But I think it's a good film. It's not for me at all. But The Northman, you've seen that one, right?
No, I haven't seen it.
Oh, hell, man, that's a manly movie, David. That's a man's man movie. That'll make hair grow in places you didn't know it could grow. And I tell you what, man, there's a lot of blood, sweat, rain, hair, nudity. blood, all that good stuff. And it's oh man, it's a movie, man. That's a manly movie right there. That's a manly movie. Also, I kind of have a somewhat of a crush on Anya Taylor-Joy. So anything she's kind of in, at least for me, kind of elevates it a little bit. It didn't do much in The Witch for me. I'm not going to be real. I'm like, sorry, chick. You're on your own. But dude, we got to go watch that trailer. Because, man, is it a freaky trailer. I know what I'm doing Christmas Day, and David's going with me. Going to the theaters. Actually, not on Christmas Day, but maybe we'll go the day after.
Is that when it's supposed to be dropping
Christmas
on
Day,
Christmas?
just like Nosferatu.
Oh, very
Coming
nice.
at Christmas. So, anyway, I think that's all I got for you, David.
All right.
You didn't want to go another 45 minutes or an hour?
Not particularly.
Oh, well, by the time this pre-show is done, cut out of this, it'll be like 2:10-ish.
But I'm not feeling.
Yeah, we're gonna be burning the bare midnight oil if we keep going. That way.
Yeah, we started a little bit late.
Yeah, we did.
Recording wise, so I don't have a massive episode in me. I don't think.
I don't got that big burrito in me no more. Well, man, we talked about a lot. We talked about Christian heritage. We talked about the moral foundations of Europe and the United States. We talked about Hitler and his view on genetic superiority. We talked about Nosferatu. We talked about Cookie Crisps. It was a jam-packed episode, David. Oh, yeah, and He-Man, Jake Skywalker, transgender people, detransition. There's a lot we covered. And if you have any other things you would like us to cover, send them on over to snarpfanglepod@gmail.com. We certainly thank you for making it this far. And if you are listening to this part right now, at the very end, go ahead and say the word Master Chief. No. Say the word rock. Because that's all we had back in the day. We just had 2 sticks and a rock. And that's all we had.
For the whole platoon.
With the whole platoon, 2 sticks and a rock. And we had to share the rock. See you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good one. And remember to Snarp Fangle on.
But bye now.